Hello, and thank you for joining College to Consulting. In today's class, I am going to show you a behind-the-scenes look of how recruiters look at you. So, this will go over the skills that they are looking for during the recruiting cycle and what type of candidate will embody all these different skills. So let's get into it. Recruiters are looking for a balance of skills, and these skills are essentially your organization and your structure ability, communication, question asking, how you mine for answers, meaning how do you collect data? Are you doing it in a very concise and efficient means? Your qualitative skills or your creativity, your hard analytical skills, and lastly, your interest and enthusiasm. And essentially, recruiter is looking for which candidate not is just very, very, very good at one, but embodies all of these different skills. So now we'll go into more depth of what these mean and how you can use them. Okay, organization and structure. So what does this mean? Well, it's essentially a way of showing a clear approach before solving anything, whether it be in a behavioral question or it be a case. If you can show your method and you can keep and manage data very, very clean, this is what organization and structure is. It's also about forming a hypothesis to test. So people who have very, very good structure are able to say, this is my hypothesis, and this is what data I need to test this hypothesis. This will help you out rather than just kind of throwing darts out in the dark to seeing what information that you would need that won't necessarily help you. And it's a way of keeping a very clean arrangement of your thoughts, data, and ideas. So if you can do this, all these three parts right here, this is how you can communicate to your recruiter that you are very organized and structured in your thinking. So let's go into how you show your recruiter this in the information session, the resume, and during the case. So information sessions, how you show organization structure. You tell a story about yourself, but you keep it very concise and to the point. If you can do this without rambling on, now you show your interviewer that you are structured in your thinking and how you would tell this story. In the resume, start off with an action verb. You talk about how you manage, you design, you analyze, you do whatever. Tell your action and then talk about your result. You can have your resume bullet in this type of format. Now you're also showing your interviewer subtly that you are structured in your wording and communication as well. And with the interviewer, keep separate pages. This was the tip that I got from someone from Oliver Wyman when I was interviewing, and they said, you know what, rip out multiple sheets of paper to use for different parts. Use one sheet of paper for math, one sheet of paper for drawing, one sheet of paper for a roadmap. But if you do this, it'll show that you can manage slides or data very, very succinctly and efficiently. Don't scribble, be very neat, and start off with a framework on your framework sheet of paper. Later on then, you can recycle it. But if you put it all on one sheet of paper, it's going to look really messy and it's going to look very unorganized. Okay, communication. So what does this mean? Communication is essentially a concise explanation of whatever. Be very efficient with your wording and make it very easy to understand though. So use words with clear meanings. If you are trying to describe a story and it's looking very, very vague and you're using words that the interviewer, using words such as proper nouns that only you and maybe some of your friends know or friends from your school would know that the interviewer wouldn't know, it's going to make it harder for your interviewer to understand what you're trying to say. So another way you can do is you can show your ideas through words, numbers, and drawings. If you can draw and show what you actually did or put in numbers to show results, now you are communicating with the interviewer in a very efficient means. So how do you do this? At the info session, ask clear questions and tell your story concisely. Ask questions that are very easy to understand, where your interviewer doesn't have to say, I don't understand what you're saying, and can you explain it again? Ask a question that the interviewer will immediately pick up, and when you talk, again, very quick story of what you did in a very succinct manner. On the resume, use words that are clear to understand. Make sure your actions are very easily understood. So for instance, you say that you managed something and you did this. You analyzed this data. You or a project manager for these types of people, which your interviewer will be able to easily digest and absorb and understand what you are trying to say in your resume. And lastly, with the interviewer, ask questions directly and show your data through hand-drawn charts and diagrams. If you can draw, and I mention this all the time, you can draw and you can explain what you're doing through means of visual stimulus, that will resonate much stronger with the interviewer than if you were just to write stuff down. People don't really, at least in consulting, when you write down words, people don't really read words, but they read graphs. Okay? Question asking, mining for data. Okay, so what does this mean? Well, how do you get the data you need for your case? Here is what I hate. I hate when people just ask for random data. I got this tip from someone from Bain when I was interviewing, and they said, don't just ask for data. Don't just ask, do we have any information on this? And you'll hear a lot of your friends say this. Do we have any information on whatever? Instead, a better way to do this is to make a hypothesis about what data you need and ask for data supported or negated. For instance, let's say we're doing a case on growth and product A is losing a lot of profitability. A basic interviewer will say, do we have any information on product A? And to the interviewer, essentially this is just saying, what does that mean? Yes, we have information such as the name. What else do you want? That question is not targeted. If you said this instead, I would assume that product A is losing profit because costs seem really high with the type of material that goes into it. Do we have any information to support or negate this hypothesis? That sounds much better. It shows the interviewer, all right, this person knows what data they need. Even if you're wrong and costs are not the problem, it's revenue, at least you sound smarter. And you said, do we have any information to support or negate this hypothesis? So do that. No longer asking from this moment on, no more asking, do we have any information on that? Make a hypothesis and then ask for that data. Okay? All right. So how do you show this? Well, in the information session, reference a white paper. Talk about a white paper, which is a publication the company does on topics that interest them, such as industries or types of work. Reference a white paper and something that you've heard about the company. Make a hypothesis and ask if it's valid. So if you can do this, it shows that you've read a white paper and you want to know more about it, but you're doing it in a very high level means. Resume, obviously this doesn't really apply because you're not asking for any data during the resume portion. And then during the interview, show what data you'll need to make a hypothesis about the data instead of just asking for do we have any data. One time I rant about this already, so we already promised each other that from this point on you wouldn't do that, so I assume that you internalize that. Okay, qualitative skills and creativity. What does this mean? Well, it means coming up with unique solutions. This is very fun. This is the fun part where you get to showcase what you're thinking and how you would solve something. So make sure, though, your solutions are feasible. They have to be plausible and they have to be able to be real, not just stuff that you come up with that won't ever work. So show that you've thought through the risks and issues of your idea. If you can do this early on, it's major points. For instance, if you say we can maybe increase sales by marketing it to this type of group this way. For example, another company that did this was Netflix or Apple or whatever. A risk to this idea would be this, but a way to get around that would be this. Doing that gives you major points. It shows that you have a solution that could work because the company's already done it, but also you've thought through where are the weak spots and how can we patch those weak spots up. And this is exactly what consultants do. So how do you do this through different parts of the recruiting cycle? One is with the information session. Discuss the work in the white papers with consultants and the possible solutions. If you can start talking about hypothetical solutions to how you would solve it, now you're able to showcase your creativity. On resumes, show what actions you took. A quick blurb on the action. You managed this by doing this, which resulted in this. If you can talk about the actions, and you can talk in a quick snippet about what you did rather than just a blurb on the result, now you can show some creativity behind the action that you took. And with the interview, give a solution, show a supporting example, and describe how you will mitigate the risk of the idea. So, for instance, we'll look at Netflix. We'll say Netflix was having a growth problem. What did they do? Or they wanted to move away from physical DVDs. We'll say, okay, well, one thing that we could do is, let's say you're doing a case with a situation that's very, very similar to Netflix. You could say, one thing we could do is, in order to move toward our higher margin products, we could do something, we could focus on and market our higher margin products and get rid of the ones that cost us too much. Similarly, Netflix did something like this. What we could do is we could really keep the price point low for the high margin product to a consumer, because we're making a lot of money anyway, and try to phase out the more costly initiative. When Netflix did this, they really just focused on marketing their streaming service and less about the DVDs in the mail. And the commercials started changing in that means. As a result, they were able to increase growth, and now their stock price is like 200% higher than what it used to be. And a risk to this would be, now you can have competitors who can do this easier because it's all online, but we can mitigate that by trying to get first to market advantage or whatever. But by doing this, you showcase your creativity and you showcase that you've thought through these types of answers. Okay? Analytical skills. So what do they mean? Well, essentially, it's just mental math skills. But they also require a clear explanation of calculations, meaning, can you explain to your interviewer what you're doing with this math? And you don't have to be super fast at mental math. If you can't do the mental math, that's fine. Write it down on paper. It's better to have a right answer than a fast answer that is wrong. Do that. And then show you can identify what inputs you need to solve the case. Similarly to physics or to math or to chemistry, where you have to plug and chug, you need to know what you're going to plug and chug. Same thing with a case. You need to know what information you need to plug and chug it and to solve and to form whatever data that you need to use to make a decision. So how do you show the recruiter this? Well, with the information session, don't be afraid to discuss results and numbers. Get into it. Talk about when they give you an example of some work that they've done, the consultant that is, ask them about the numbers, ask them about the results. This will be very good to showcase that you understand this and you have very adept analytical abilities. Resume. Put results or projected results for every bullet in your resume. I want to see which resulted in order to project it to by a percentage, dollar figure, or whatever. A lot of people think that they have no numerical values for their some skills or some points on their resume, but I assure you, you can find a way to do it. And lastly, is with the interview, walk through your calculations to show you know what you're doing. Say, I'm going to take the market size by looking at this group of people, multiplying the percentage of people that would actually buy this product by the number of people in this demographic group, which gives me the total amount of people. Stuff like that, okay? Lastly, interest and enthusiasm. What does it mean? Show that your interests lie in the industry and the type of work. Get into it. Get really excited. If it's about skis and you don't know anything about skiing, but it's about growth strategy, get into growth strategy and vice versa. But get into it and show that you are very excited, because that's the type of consultant they want to put in front of the client. Someone who can be very interested and engaged. And show that you'd be great to hang out with. Again, if you're stuck in an airport. With this interest and enthusiasm, they want to see your energy. If you can give this energy now during the interview, it'll be recognized, and this will be the type of person that the consultant will want to hang out with outside of work. And have fun. Just have fun with this. Be fun, be smart, and be engaging. Okay? So how do you do this? In the information sessions, talk about work experiences and interests outside of work. A very good question to ask during the information session is to ask, or during the actual interview where they ask what questions you have for me, is ask, what did you do in undergrad outside of just cases that helped you prepare for your job? And now what you'll do is you'll be able to open up and see that the consultant might talk about, oh, I was in marching band, or I was in swimming, or I was in debate, or whatever. But you will get more information about this consultant, and then you can talk about that stuff and your interest in that to showcase that you would be a fun person to hang out with and to just talk to. And your resumes, Include some other passions. So say that you're into music or football or whatever. Put it on your resume all the way at the bottom where it says other interests, and put it there, and it's a really good little hook in case you land it and someone else is really interested in what you are interested in too. And lastly is get excited about the product during the interview. Remember, pretend that you are a consumer, you're a client, you are actually working there. Get excited, but show that energy. So these are all the parts that the recruiters are looking for when they're looking for a top candidate. We've gone over what they mean and how to internalize them. The best thing that will happen is to honestly think through this when you're practicing with people and friends and whatever. And try to do this when you're talking. Think about how are they looking at my interest, enthusiasm, my organization, my communication, my analytical skills. Okay? I will see you in the next class.